Hello, welcome back to Reality Check. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to our channel. In fact, take a moment, pause, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend or members of your family. And if you've always been here, welcome back. We're happy to have you. We appreciate your feedback. We are seeing it on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. Thank you so much for your comments. Today, we have another exciting conversation. We're going to be talking about how our upbringing and our backgrounds affect our relationships, but in particular, our marriages. Now, it's known that, your relationship with your parent or how you relate with your parents is going to affect or play a major role in how you express love, in how you receive love, but also in your expectations of your partner, and perhaps also how you respond in stressful situations. So joining me for this conversation are two powerhouses. I will start with our guest, Mr. David Kabiswa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, Mr. Kabiswa is a speaker, and he's also an organizational consultant.
Organizational
consultant and
some of the
leadership
things I
consultant.
prefer. My passions for a long time have always been training of young people.
Yes.
In
yes.
life skills, social skills,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I always go with everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm still doing it actually in my Rotary Club now.
Okay.
Running a series on relationships 101.
Nice. So you want to look out for Mr. Kabiswa, the things they don't teach you in school. Yeah. And yet are very necessary for life. And then of course you are resident expert on mental health, all things family, marriage. She's a marriage therapist as well. So if that's an area you'd like support in, please do reach out to her. We'll be linking our contacts in our description box so that you can reach out if you need help.
And a parenting coach.
And a parenting coach as well. So again, if that's an area that you need support in, please do access her. So welcome. Lady and gentlemen.
Thank you,
Thank
Rachel.
you.
We were discussing something before we came on air, so the energy is high. And it's always a good time to talk about relationships and marriages because the marriage arena is under attack as we know it, and marriages have evolved. The way people are doing marriages is changing over time. But today we want to focus on how we were raised affects our marriage relationships. And I'll start by asking us to describe what kind of parenting styles we interacted with when we were growing up, or experiences, and how we feel like they are impacting marriages today. So if you're okay to share your parenting style, like how were you raised, Mr. Kabiswa, or Dr. Evas, how were you raised, and how you feel like it affected your marriage, or perhaps speak in general.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, ladies first. Is it?
No,
Or-
we'll
all
start with our guest.
All right.
Guest
Thank you
first.
very much for this opportunity. How was I raised? Just some family context.
Yeah.
A family of 4 boys, no girls. So my mom had to be firm.
Yeah.
And I found out later in life that she had one principle. If there's a fight, she beats the younger.
No way.
Yeah, that was to make sure she was trying to teach that you should always respect
The older.
Right?
Interesting.
So yeah, so mom was tough. Dad was I suppose what you'd call an ordinary man in terms of you can see him at home.
Yeah.
If he needed to call out some authority, he did.
He did, yes.
He'd do the discipline. Sometimes they wait for him to come home to do the punishments and stuff like that. So there's a bit of that. So how did that affect my marriage? One thing that's, all right, how it affected my marriage, mom did the shopping. I got into a marriage situation where in the family the dad used to do the shopping. So we had an issue there.
Okay.
I said, men don't do shopping.
Yes.
And they said, which men? So in their situation, it was the men, I said, okay. So we had to kind of reach a compromise.
Yes.
So I didn't know much about how the females operate. Even as in school, I was a prefect in school, and then I gave punishments. I was very equal rights based.
Okay.
The same. Go 2 miles, boys. Go
2 miles,
And
girls.
they told me you need to handle them differently.
Yeah.
I didn't know. All right, because of boys only. My last kind of fight in school was in S3. The girl.
Really?
So there's those sorts of things, you know.
Yeah.
When you're growing up, maybe my parents should have seen some of that. Because the boys I know is fighting, and the primary school had complained a bit. they didn't quite talk about it apart from telling us, hey, better not do that thing again. So there's no understanding why was I doing it, was it showing any situations that needed to be dealt with, not clear. But when I went into marriage, we did a little bit of work at home. So me, I thought I was the best sweeper in the place. I used to do that very well. I used to cook, but when I got into the marriage context, for somehow, the skills vanished.
The skills disappeared.
The skills disappeared. But in terms of how I do discipline, mine, because of what I saw Dad do, mine became more of, let's talk about it. All right. So and I have only girls, by the way.
Interesting.
So having come from only boys to only girls, and my mom came from a family of only girls. So it's like everybody's just struggling as they move along. So for me, one man told me, and I'll never forget that, he said, "You have good girls." He said there'll be a lot of emotions in that place. Then he told me, what a girl says she means. If she has said, "Get me a yellow dress," she has meant yellow.
Okay.
Don't say I couldn't find yellow.
So I got
red
orange.
or orange.
Yes.
She'll not take it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke until I saw it happening
You saw
in
it.
our home. Some of the same thing, and the auntie came back. Yeah. The girl just said, "I said green."
Not
And
purple.
it warned me, boys can take anything. So mine, in terms of how prepared me for marriage, me, I'll just say, honestly, I'm just swimming and
Figuring it out.
figuring it out.
Like a lot of people.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
And
a
it's
lot
okay.
of people. Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay. Okay, so you want
Your
me
time,
to share mine
yes.
as well? Okay, so I also grew up in a family where my dad, we had more conversation with our dad than our mom.
Interesting.
My mom was a doer, and she's still a doer. She's now 91, but still a doer.
Yeah.
And so let me first talk about my mom. So she was very hardworking, and she upheld certain principles, and one of them was a family should always have food.
Aha.
And because of that, she made us work like donkeys. So, which has come
carried
to
on.
benefit us so much. So any family that you go to, my siblings, we are all here in Kampala, you will, the first thing is, what will you drink, what will you take, what will, you know, and then ensuring that we have sufficient food.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. And
she always emphasized that when guests come to your house, they haven't come to die in your house. So we have a, there's a statement in our language. So when someone comes to your home, so we say, if there is no food, you say, "Bambe, sorry, sorry, we don't
have anything."
And she hated that. So she always said, have food and have this and have mushroom and have dry this and have, make something.
Yes.
So that's number one. And so we grew up knowing how. And of course, as a woman, she really trained us to take care of the home and make sure that everything is in place.
Yeah.
Now, my dad was different. So my dad was very relational, that we could tell him anything. Matter of fact, when I grew up, I realized that most of the things or skills I needed to manage relationships, I learned them from my dad.
Yeah.
And I was particularly very close to him. We did, he was a priest. And so the whole family, we were his choir in the church and all that. But specifically for me, I used to do daily Bible study with him. So he read the Bible so much. So either he was in taking care of the cows or he was seated home reading his Bible. And so I would have a daily guide, and he had his Chishumuruzo. And so he would say, he called me by my surname, or he said, Kansime, what does yours say today? Mine says this. So we connected through that. And I loved my dad, and so we were so close. So most of the and he was a talker. So every time he would say this about relationships, say this. Of course, some of the perspectives he held, they were, you know, the usual men things. But you know, he would, one particular thing I remember passionately, he would say that really Christ transforms. So he would always say, he was he was among the revival people. And so he always said, if it wasn't for Christ, see what Christ has done in us. You know, a typical man would do this, but you see this. And he always talked about, when you're getting married, please marry a believer. A man who doesn't know Christ is as good as an animal, you know. So he would look at that, and so he held such perspectives. And it was very interesting. So, and he would also, I remember he would talk to us girls and say, please respect a man. A man in the home is a man in the home. Now, I remember, so actually I believe that I picked my therapy career from my dad, because I think he was really, and being a church leader, but, you know, so that. But secondly, my dad was very, very truthful. So he always told us that his salvation was for going to heaven, not for managing things on the earth. And because of that, he believed in transformational salvation, you know, and he would get upset to see his peers who were Christians and preaching the gospel still behaving a certain way. He would get upset. And so, and of course, sometimes he would come off a certain way. You know, the revival people, how they
very radical,
very radical,
very radical.
But they knew what they believed, and so that's the dad I saw, very truthful and all. Now, I always said that I had a challenge. By the way, let me confess today. So again, I had a challenge believing that a man can tell a lie.
I think you've told me that before.
I've told you this before. And let me tell you, you can't believe it. Like, until way later, I realized, so a man can also tell a lie.
Because of your dad.
And especially a man in leadership can tell a lie. Like, you're seeing people on TV, I'm like, but that's a lie.
That's a lie.
No,
why is he
wait
lying?
a minute. And it was way later. Way later, I'm very grown up and doing things. And I'm seeing men lie. So I didn't know how to deal with that.
To reconcile,
to reconcile that. And then also, I also grew up, I saw my mom respect my dad. And so I also didn't know how to disrespect a man. And actually, my husband will testify, I don't know how to disrespect a man. Because I believe, I respect that family leadership structure.
The hierarchy.
That hierarchy. So I grew up, I'm like, no way, like, respect that. That is to be respected. Yeah, so again, those are some of the things I saw when I was growing up.
That's so interesting. I mean, I've interacted with both of you in different arenas, and with you really for a very short time, but everything you've described I have seen in you. Yeah, Evas' house always has food. All right. It always has food. And yet I have seen you're macho, but you're very in touch with your, I don't want to call it the emotional side, but you work well with the women.
That's called the feminine.
The feminine side. The feminine side.
That's right.
You work well with women and with men as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure our audience will appreciate it. So let's speak about some of the habits, the patterns, you know, now in general, that we pick from our upbringing and bring into our marriages today. And how are they expressed in our marriages? So speak generally, and I'm sure you've both interacted with different marriage, you know, couples, and
Okay. Okay. Since you say speak generally, I'll speak with the fact that food is different. That, you know, on one time I had a discussion with my wife and said, "You don't realize it's me who's changing diets. What you've been used to when you're growing up is what you've come with. So for you, there's no change. That's what you know how to cook and you know, stuff like that." One of the things that I was not used to is that if food stays over, it can
be warmed.
It can be warmed, and another menu can come out of it. You know? For us, we used to, of course, first of all, we used to eat and finish.
Yes.
So there's probably been nothing,
Yes.
yeah, nothing around. So that one there, it has been something that, those are habits that come.
Yeah.
Now, my mom, because we're only boys, are not very touchy-feely. So we did not do birthdays very well. So one of the things that then in marriage that I struggled with was people give me attention for birthday.
And it bothered you.
It bothered me.
Yeah.
They got them confused. Sometimes they say want to surprise me, then the surprise doesn't work well.
Yeah.
Another time when they don't do anything for the birthday, then I'm
it's
saying,
like,
is there no
what's up?
cake? So one time they asked, which is it?
Yes.
And I also realized
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it can be those sorts of habits, you know. And my mom also, when I found out she had come from a well-to-do family, as compared to my dad. So some of those things that she also expected in life, how she used money, was
very
not necessarily,
different.
you know, just like it should go.
Yes.
you know, more money might come. There's that.
Yeah.
Generally, what I've also seen in marriage, and maybe in mine, and also many men, they don't talk much.
Yeah, what's that
They
about?
don't talk much. So it's as though if talking too much is it's like you're playing a game of cards and they're saying, I've got 2, 8, and 3. What do you have? No, you can't win the game if you're
always showing your
cards. So I think there's something like that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we deal with very many men is the whole element that the women do not know where the home is going because they've not communicated, and the men feel, and you want to know as who?
As who? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm the head of
I'm the head of the home. I know where it's headed.
Yeah.
You're the head of the kitchen and the domestic. And do I interfere?
Yeah,
you know,
no.
so it's because men can be very territorial and also very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, this is my stuff.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it this way. One final thing, communicating emotions for men and for me has been very difficult. A few days ago, there was a certain WhatsApp that I got a message. And it was acted out in Kenya, and they'd asked these guys, call your dad and say I love you.
I saw that.
You saw that one?
I missed that.
You know,
Yeah.
we need to share.
Yes.
And you know, the guys say, maybe I thought the boys did it badly. Hi dad, I love you. And the guy would say, what do you want? You know, dad, I just want to say I love you. And then one of them just said, you know, was it Karunji? Stop playing around. It was kind of like, let's get to business.
Yes.
When they showed the girls,
Yeah.
you talk about you know, my mom, how you, what. The girls also knew how to start the conversation.
Yes.
And then when they went to love, and the mom just said, I love you too.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so I said to my daughters, I said, I need an evaluation.
How am I doing
on this thing?
Yeah.
Of course, I know I'm not doing very well. If there's a scale of 1 to 5, maybe I'm 2. I'm not even go for the scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 5.
1 to 5 is just, so people don't know it's close to. Yeah, but that's an area, how to communicate emotions is different.
Yeah.
And because I've got girls only, girls love a lot, and you know they show you, they come here, and you know it's kind of like you're feeling, it's kind of like all right, you know, when does it start, when does it stop, you know? Yeah. So I think those sorts of things, how we grew up can influence. The girls like the parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not there, and I'm hoping, I know that would now affect how they do it in the future, and so I need to be very careful about those sorts of things. Yeah.
Interesting.
But one thing my mom taught us: never leave food on the
On
plate.
the plate, yeah.
That one has stuck with me. I get into workshops, I'm upset when I see people leaving food on the table.
The plate, yeah.
It's not translated exactly in our home, so sometimes I struggle with that one and say, you know, and I'm very organized. Start this way, this way, this way. So the plate is done.
Yes.
Because I'm always thinking about who's going to wash the plates.
Are you now?
Yeah, because we used to do the chores. So
Got it.
the fewer the things we use, the better.
The better, yes.
You know, but here you've done here, then you
use this
you
spoon, then you put it down.
then you know, let me experiment the mixture. So even by the time we finish,
the dishes are many. Oh my.
Those are some of the things that you can take to.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, the one that stands out for me and that I have seen a lot in marriages is the expression, being able to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of men, being vulnerable in their marriages is a big issue. And I think it comes a lot from...
It's hierarchy, it's control.
Yeah.
Hierarchy, the one at the top holds the things to their chest. And then also hierarchy means you know how and when to ask. Like when men are together, they automatically work out a hierarchy and they know how to navigate around it. One of the things I find the challenges in marriage, women don't understand hierarchy. All right? So sometimes the way they talk to you can be disrespectful.
The lines are a bit blurry.
Just one and men, because even men can't talk like that to each other. So when there's an issue, She doesn't know what she did. Like I read an article, someone says, no man knows how to define respect.
But they can.
But they know
disrespect.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But what is respect? Taking water for it? No. But the moment disrespect,
he will know.
So that also gets a little bit
That's true.
So do you think that has its roots in upbringing? The way you saw your father or the way you were raised as boys?
I think the way we were raised as boys, both.
Both.
When we saw our dad getting respected, you anticipate that, and then even as you're growing up, because of this hierarchy, it's like you just assume respect. But the other element is that there is no conscious teaching of the boy child.
Deliberate.
All right. So that's why I would say it's a product of upbringing.
Yeah.
So everything that a person now brings into their marriage is what they learn on the sports field.
Got it.
But sports isn't marriage.
No, it's not.
Yes. But and then the other thing you bring. If you're lucky, they bring some things from work. If he's learned these sorts of things from work,
let me implement
himself.
Here.
But we don't get training for one of the most vital things in life.
This is true, and we need to have an entire conversation on that.
Yeah.
Evas, would you care to share what patterns you have noticed, especially in your work, that we bring into our marriages and affect us negatively for the most part?
That's right. So I think it's, I'll just go back to what we were talking about before we faced the cameras.
Yes.
What David mentioned that really I found profound, where he said that boys, we've left boys to play, go and play. Now come
and be ahead.
Come and be ahead. Come and be a leader. You see? And so I think I'll start there, because the challenge that we are having, making assumptions that someone, because our boys are old and of marriageable age, so now they can lead a family.
Yes.
And no one has said a thing about them. Now, if you recall in our conversations when I talked about marriage as partnership, and so these guys get into, our men and boys, they get into marriage and they have no idea about partnership. So what I've seen is that they come most of the time, of course, some ladies as well, but especially the boys, the men, they come into marriage, they love marriage, the concept of marriage, but immediately they've gotten married, they want to live single. They just swing back into single life. They just start from where they stopped. We have so many marriages where absentee husbands, absentee dads, So this is happening a lot, and of course, it goes back to how they were raised, because it's freedom. Until responsibility at marriage, and then they are like, wait a minute. And so that's why you find that there's so much conflict where men are complaining that their wives are trying to rule them, right? Because now you're introducing boundaries, you're introducing all these hard conversations, and they're like, wait a minute, who are you? Are you my mother? Are you my father? Leave me alone. And so that's where it's coming from, because it has been free life and all that jumping and running and video games and uncontrolled and regulated. Now, anytime a child is growing and they are not regulated and there are no boundaries, which you asked about parenting style, any parenting style that does not define boundaries, a child grows knowing they can do
whatever
anytime to anyone and all that. And they will become those kinds of adults. You see? That's why we are even having a challenge in the workplace. People who have grown up in a permissive dispensation, where there are no boundaries, there are no rules, there are no restrictions, then they get there, and that's the first time they are hearing, you can't do this. They go like, who do you think you are? And they are talking to their bosses. Who do you think will resign this job? You think my dad can't take care of me? So that's what happens. And this is coming in marriages. Unfortunately, here they are dealing with a wife. Who they are perceiving as of a lower status. And so your junior can't call you out, can they?
No, they can't.
You see? So all those, and most of the time, this is reflected in their parents' marriage relationship.
They saw it.
They saw it.
Yes.
So that's number one. And I don't want to sound so rough to men, but I'm just saying especially.
Yeah.
Just saying, yes.
Especially.
Yes.
Now, even you'll get some girls who have been raised in such a permissive, and they are having a challenge submitting to their partners because they don't know how to submit to authority.
Yes.
And you'll have heard me tell you that one of the conversations, of course, we'll have here, but I've been involved in, is submission in marriage. And so many ladies are saying, what do you mean? Is submission still relevant in the 21st century? And they don't understand that actually this submission is submission to leadership.
Yes.
To a leadership structure in a home. And it has nothing to do with how you perceive this or your partner.
Who is lower or who is higher.
Exactly, but to submit to authority. And so it becomes a problem, but I don't want to introduce it now. I'm just mentioning it because of this, of parenting. So someone who has grown up, they never learned how to listen, submit to authority, it's going to be a problem. Another area is teamwork. Teamwork. And again, can I begin with my brothers? So teamwork, it's not uncommon in so many marriages where a man has gotten a lady, they've gotten married, and they have no idea about working as a team. All they know is to do things. I'm the boss. I take decisions. This is my family. I know where the family is going. So I will take and this is happening a lot. I just, I experience this every day. Women who are absolutely frustrated and they are saying, I can't take a decision with my husband. I remember some years back I wasn't in therapy, and I was talking to a lady, and the husband had made a decision that his family comes to their home. They had sold their home, the parents, and now all of a sudden the mom-in-law to this poor lady is calling and saying, we are coming on Saturday, so we'll be with you for probably 2 years. So the lady says, wait a minute.
What do you mean?
Now she's in this state where she doesn't want to make the husband look bad.
Yes.
But now she's in shock. So she goes back to the husband and said, what is mom saying?
Yes.
And the guy said, that's it. They are coming here. They've sold the house, so they want to live with us. Her, the husband, their 2 sons, younger sons, and a maid. Another family coming in. No conversation at all. And what is the guy saying? Yeah, that's it. But this is my home. Do you understand? So there is this whole my home thing. And most of the time, men are having a challenge consulting. So even when they consult, it's more of informing than actually engagement and hearing this person out and considering their thoughts. And sometimes, of course, when ladies came in, because we tend to approach things more emotionally. I've heard people say men are not emotional. That's so wrong. All human beings are emotional, but the way we approach life. So a woman will come in more emotionally, a man will come in more logically. And so for men to listen to that emotional part, sometimes it's so hard. They say, don't put in emotions. But you see, I'm talking about decision making and teamwork. And so it's a problem. And sometimes it's coming from, it has its roots in parenting, because people who have children who have grown up in families where they were exposed to a parenting style we call authoritarian, which is more based on orders and rules, no conversation, no input. They are likely to behave that way in their marriages, because all they know is the order ni moja, you know, like that's what you have to do. So they don't know how to engage. If actually when it comes to engagement, they just get edgy. They're like, finish quickly, I need to make my order, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I'm seeing. And then I already talked about permissiveness, but again we are seeing people who have grown up in families where there is conversation, there is this, there is grace. We also see that, and I must say there is hope. There is hope, because sometimes we think men are so there is hope. You see this. I mean, I really get comforted when I counsel men, and I really thank God that I've seen men trust that we can have a good conversation, and they come, and in that whole process, you're able to see a man whose heart is softer, and I'm emphasizing this because let's raise, when I'm talking about parenting, let's raise men who have the softer part, and not think.
I'm just wondering, isn't that where the challenge is?
In men being soft?
Yeah. I think the words we use, I don't think it is softer. It is holistic.
Yes.
I love that.
Because you see, there's some words that we use and people think that you're making me weak.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are not this toxic masculinity. And then they're trying to get in the softer. It's not softer. Because the moment you call it softer, the person thinks I'm getting weaker, I'm becoming like a female, and they do not see the strength in it. You know what? It takes a strong person to listen to another.
That's right.
Than to give a command.
Right.
Yeah.
But if the people start thinking he's listening because he's softer, even the men will not go there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that part of our challenge is that even the way basically words have been defined. We're talking family. We come from the family setting. We've seen dad is boss. We go to school. They make a monitor. You take on that thing, so it's kind of like reinforced there. You go into boarding school, prefects become as a prefect. And in our generation, I think we probably had more power than we should have. And some people are still paying dearly for it. So when you go that side, and it's always, you just think leadership means I do and you follow. I saw it in my family. But generations have changed.
True.
In my parents' generation, they kind of all had their roles.
Yeah.
Do this, do that.
Yeah.
Now you're coming from a family background where people are a little bit more enlightened. They want discussion. Nobody taught you how to have discussion.
Yeah. But you can learn.
But you see, the first reaction might think that you're being territory is being taken, different territory.
Yeah.
I said this, I think it's a bad idea because we're also a little bit more competitive.
Yeah.
All right. There's something I watched many years ago about how we play is how we become. When you see how kittens play, they're learning how to fight. When you see how girls play, girls are cooperative even in their games.
Yeah.
We are not.
Yeah.
When we play like this, you can find 2 boys, 5 boys playing, 2 are riding the bicycle, and the rest are pushing them up and down, and we're comfortable.
Yeah.
I told my wife that. Then she see some people say, no, all get turns. So they get turns as she's around. She went to visit. When she came back, they'd gone back the previous.
Yes.
Now that's where we need help to notice how you play.
Yeah.
Start changing how you play.
Yeah.
Consider the other.
Yeah.
And considering the other is actually strength.
Yeah.
I think if we get that kind of help.
That's right.
Yeah.
But also, thank you, David. I love that perspective. The other thing, probably to reinforce your point, is for us to know that everything in life management is a skill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, 21st century relationships are skill-based, not power-based. You see? So what you're describing as your dad's generation, my dad's generation, it was more power-based.
Yeah.
It wasn't skill.
No.
Yeah.
You see? But now everything is skill. Communication is skill. Negotiation is skill. Conflict management is skill.
Yeah.
You see? Listening is skill. Everything is skill. And so if we parent, as we always say, if we parent having in mind the end. So what I think is that parents are just having a nice time. Oh, look at my little daughter. Oh, now she has graduated. But we don't have the bigger picture in mind. We're not looking at this son and this daughter as a wife and this son as a husband.
And that was going to be my next question, even as we begin to wrap this conversation up. we are raising the next husband
Yes.
and the next wife.
Yeah.
And I would like for you to speak to parents today. What should they be looking out for? Because your son and your daughter are going to be talking about you as parents
Right.
and how you raised them, and they're going to be doing the very same things they were seeing in their home.
Exactly.
So let's speak to the parents. How do they,
Upbringing. You know, one of the things I worry about, I ask lots of questions, I do a lot of discussions. I've seen it in some of my daughters, but I also interact with men, and I've been in counseling situations, and I know one of the most frightful thing is being asked questions. So I kind of worry. A bit of it is the parent of today doesn't even exactly know what kind of child they're going to marry. In fact, when somebody told me, we raise our children so well, and then we throw them up there. You know, like how you see kites looking for meat. You know, some children can play and throw. We're not careful in helping them select their mates. You've taken all this time, and then since she's 24, you're not helping because you don't want to do anything arranged. You just throw up and say, Lord, help her. Help. Let the correct kite come and catch. No, we can't do that. You know, we've got to be more deliberate. I've confronted some women when I see how they've raised boys. All right? They let them off the hook. Parents letting boys off the hook. What that means is that the guy knows I get finished product. All right? I come home when food has been set.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
Because the mom raised him that way. Right? We had some people who came to visit us many years ago. The children, our relatives, in-laws, and they come, and then the guy dropped his bag on the thing. I said, hey, come, pick it up. He said, my sister will pick it up. I said, no, not in this home. But they were visiting. But in my mind, I thought, he cannot do what is not done before.
That's true.
Meaning that.
At home.
So are parents scared? I think partly they are scared. But one of my challenges is that parents are not reading to get better. They're reading to get career,
and to do business.
And to do business and stuff like that. They don't actually realize that parenting is an assignment.
It's a skill.
It's a skill, and that you've been entrusted.
Yes.
The
most delicate
I'm taking
thing.
school, come back, I've done homework, whatever. What character? We had a very sharp, I have a very, in school she was always excelling. But she also had a temper. So one time I go to Paris and I say, yeah. And they're telling me, oh, I wish I had a child like this. I said, I said, how is she doing emotionally? Teacher had no clue.
Really?
Teacher had no clue. She took a little bit of the thing I told her. I used to go and sadly. Boys, you don't mess around. And we said, how do you manage that? So parents, you've got to know what are your individual child's personalities, right? Personality traits, their likings, their dislikes, their strengths, their weaknesses, their areas that need improvement. Work on them. Does it take a lot of time? Yes, it does. We know it does, and we know you're tired.
Already.
So are we. But we're doing it.
That's right.
And parents need to get out of that mode of excuse. We're busy, we're whatever. The moment we do that, my burden. I've told everybody I've got girls only. My prayer and my worry is that they get a good guy. I'm worried.
Of course.
That's out there. There are guys who are just going to, like I heard somebody say once, the people of this day specialize in eating out. And if they're not Christians, sexual activity. And those are the two things that they're using to base a life partnership on.
That's right.
It's crazy.
So parents, we go to work.
We have a lot of work to do. So, Rachel, to answer your question, it just goes back to, do we parent these children with an end in perspective? Do we care about what kind of wife they are going to be, or what kind of husband they are going to be? Our children graduated from school, uni last year, and when I was talking to them, I said, now life has just started. They said, what do you mean, Mommy? I said, relationships. Now life of relationships has started, serious relationships. Now we've been celebrating grades and all that, and A's and GPA, but now life has started, and this is your defining moment. And we had to have that kind of conversation to tell them now where they are going is more character-based than achievement-based. And so all the things that we have learned, they are going to be applicable now. Because it's your character going to keep you in the workplace, how you relate with people. It's going to keep you in your interactions and also choosing a life partner.
Yeah.
And it's called a life partner. And so, going back to that, so I always ask a question I'm going to ask now. And if parents, we paid attention with a sense of an end in mind, then I ask parents a question. Supposing, and I ask moms who are in the habit of spoiling boys, I ask, so if you, just imagine you are married to your son, do you think you would be happily married?
Yeah.
You see?
Do they know?
Do they
Yeah,
know?
you see? And some of them, by the way, see these things.
They do.
That's why they are
They
following,
ignore them,
we are
yeah.
following our children in marriage.
Yes.
Do you know how many parents are following their children in marriage?
many.
To manage
To
their
manage,
marriages as
yes.
well.
Okay,
Do you know
because
how
they
many
know.
moms
They know.
are making decisions for their sons' marriages?
Yeah.
So many who are saying, no, you can't live in that place you just have. Why is your wife, you know, all that. Your wife can't cook better for you, you have to come home. I think you need to fire your wife. All these things are happening.
They are.
So we have spoiled our sons and our daughters, and now we are following them in marriage. Now I also ask the dads, supposing your daughter, you were married to your daughter, do you think you would be happily married?
Yes.
Now, the strange thing is that we know what we want in a good marriage.
Yes.
You see,
Yeah,
as parents.
Yeah.
But do we bother to instill that in
In
our children? You see?
Yeah.
Now, if we were doing that,
Yeah.
I'm sure you all know where we are now with the state of our marriage. I always interest people to read this report, the state of marriages in Uganda. We have a study that was done in 2020, and 77% of the marriages are miserable. That's what it's indicating.
Yeah.
Only 11% are saying we are happily married.
Happily married.
And of course, you know that our divorce rate has also
gone up.
to 12%. And so, just think about these 77 people hanging in there. So what's happening there?
For the
This is
children.
really-
For the
yes,
children.
For the children. This is happening a lot.
Yeah.
But this is all coming. That's why whenever something happens, we go back to how were you raised? How were you know? Because it has its roots.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Family shapes our character.
Yeah.
All the things, the magic words.
Yeah,
You remember magic
please,
words?
thank
Which
you.
we joke with
Please,
the
thank
please,
you.
the thank you,
Yeah,
excuse me,
yeah.
Sorry.
and
Yeah.
you know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know marriage thrives on I'm sorry? But how many people know that?
How many people struggle
How
to
many
say I'm
peop-
sorry?
How many people
Yeah.
struggle, especially our sons,
Yeah.
and they've gotten a message. Oh, these things are for women. You know,
But
so
I
the
find
softer
that
side.
nobody's going to allow to do parental classes because they think they know.
Yeah.
But what we're finding out is that they don't know. We know what we want in a marriage.
right.
We don't know how to train it. One of the
Yeah.
things I do is we get activities, we say, which values do you want in your child? Da, 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 da. How do you instill them? And that's what we need to.
Yeah.
People don't know how to instill faithfulness. They don't know how to instill integrity. They don't know how to, frugality. They see it. They
like
know
it.
it and they see it.
Yeah.
You tell them develop it. They're
don't know
stuck.
how to.
And
But they're
that's
not going to come for
and
help.
that's the
Yeah.
reason, Rachel,
Yeah.
that even when our children's marriages are struggling, we have no advice to give. So again, I just recall something that happened. A parent whose son was sleeping out and doing all the crazy things, and this girl goes to the mom,
The
and
boy's
says-
mom?
the boy's mom, and says, "I'm stranded. This is happening." And you know what she was saying? It's okay. That's how men are.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that's it. That's how men are. But because she can't even face, because this is a child you've raised to in a permissive way. They do anything they want. Now you can't face them when they are men in their
Yeah,
families and
yeah.
and call them out.
Yeah.
And we have no courage as parents to
Yeah.
call out our children
Yeah.
when they are messing up their marriages
Yeah.
or something is happening, or supporting them. And I couldn't believe it. And this mom.
But she expects her daughter not to stay there.
Oh yes.
Yes.
I don't
The
know.
expectation.
Probably she would say the same thing to the daughter.
Yeah.
But she's telling this girl, to handle.
Men are like that.
And men are like
So
that.
stay in there.
In fact, when he stays in a different room, just get a mattress, just go there. So like teaching this girl to be oppressed and oppressed and oppressed. And no one thinks about how this party is feeling, because men are like that and all that. And so we just have to be, as parents, we know what we expect in marriages. And so I think it's extremely important for parents to know that I need to instill these things in my children. If you know, some of us, husbands, wives, they just hate certain things about their partners, but they still see these things grow in their children, and they are not really mindful.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this conversation can go on all day, but as we close in your parting shots, I want you to speak to our audience who are watching and are married. How can they use their upbringing? How can they be aware, constantly aware? Because if you're not aware, you will not take care to polish up your actions or do better or evaluate yourself. How can, and you'll speak to husbands and you'll speak to the wives, how can they be aware of their upbringing and how those patterns are being brought into their marriage and use them to their advantage? Because there are good things that we got from our upbringing, so as to have healthier marriage relationships. In under a minute, both of you.
All right. Under a minute. Men, we grew up and many of us did not enjoy what we saw, because when you look at how our parents raised us up, some of us even probably made decisions we will not do it that way. We made the decision not to do it that way. We did not necessarily make the decision on how to know how to do it. Okay? Men, self-awareness, understanding ourselves, our background, and what made us is crucial. Help is the next thing. We were trained, we don't actually seek help, and many times help is associated to weakness. But men, I'm speaking to you from two angles. One, as parents, next as leaders. Many of us are leaders in the workplace, and we do the extra work to become good leaders. We go for all those courses. The challenge is we take the course as the course, and we take marriage as the marriage. Me, I'll tell you what has helped me. The things I read in psychology, the things I read in Steve Covey, I read them there, I do them in management books, and I know that if it is good for the workplace, I need to find out what is good in the home.
For home, yes.
Because many of you are excelling in the workplace, I want to encourage and challenge you. Get the things you're learning in the workplace, apply them in the home. You'll be setting an environment and modeling for your son and daughter to know what to do in their own home. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful. Yes, Evas.
Yes, so for me, speaking to moms, as I've said before, moms, we have this big, huge, God-given responsibility to nurture humanity. And by humanity, I'm talking about relationships. So relationships are actually nurtured by moms. Right? So aspects around care, compassion, empathy, which I'll call soft again.
Yes, for the sake of this conversation.
That delicate part of life, where life is, by the way, because life is 90% relational, right? And 10% material. And so these relational aspects, the care, the human being is something to be nurtured by moms. And we need to know that all relationships, whether in the workplace, whether in marriage, are going to be dependent on how human the person we are sending to the world looks like. You see, emotional regulation is nurtured by women. And this has its roots in potty training. You see, so potty training, organizational skills, emotional regulation, all these things. So we need to be mindful of this little child that has been entrusted into our care, and to know that we are going to nurture them into a human being that is going to be relational and manage life that way. And if I may conclude this with what I mentioned earlier, we need to have a sense of the end. You know, what we call parenting for the future.
For the future.
Don't just celebrate your child, just be excited about how this child is, how they look like, how they, you know, how they are performing. And you're not seeing them as a leader, as a wife, as a husband, and especially, I really want to call on moms. Please raise boys who are considerate,
Yes.
who are empathetic,
Yeah.
who love. You know, because moms teach love and attachment.
Yeah.
Let's teach our boys to love. Love doesn't make them weak. It makes them strong. Because when they are great lovers of their wives, of their children, they're going to be great family leaders.
That's true.
And so,
That's true.
Rachel, I really want to stop.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, David. You can be sure David is coming back to this chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Evas, obviously, for sharing your insights. Let us know what is happening in your home. How were you raised, and how is that affecting your marriage relationship or your relationships in general? Would love to hear from you. And what tips have you picked from this episode? Please share what stood out for you. And of course, don't forget to share this with a friend. Until next time, we'll be back with another exciting conversation on Reality Check. Remember to subscribe, to hit that notification bell so you know when we have a new episode out. Bye-bye.